Welcome back to the Hurricanes opponent preview series. If you're watching this on YouTube, again, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out tremendously. You'll be doing me a favor by getting me more recognizable in the algorithm that YouTube has. Please like and subscribe. It helps me out tremendously. If you like what you see and you want to donate, you can do it via PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. That's totally up to you. The link will be in the description. If you feel you want to donate, that's up to you. Without further ado, let's continue. In part 8 of the 12-part Hurricanes opponent preview series, we will preview the 2025 SMU Mustangs, our opponent out in Dallas on November 1st. Rhett Lashlee and company are coming off a first strong season in the ACC, marked by an undefeated regular season conference record and a spot in the playoff, losing to Penn State. They aim to build on the success in 2025, but they will have a very tough schedule. They have to go to Clemson October 18th and then we come in November 1st to Dallas, which could have, of course, that's going to have major college football playoff implications, which I'll get to in a moment. Let's look at the key players for SMU. You know, of course, Jennings is back as their quarterback. 3,245 yards and 23 touchdowns last year. He's a dual-threat quarterback. He has a good grasp of Rhett Lashlee's offense, and he's received accolades from former coaches in the game, like a guy you might have heard of, John Gruden. Yeah, that's pretty high praise. Pretty high praise for that guy. At safety, they have Isaiah Kobia, who is going to be critical in their defense on the back end at safety. They have a very good tight end in R.J. Maryland, who's a senior, and he plays a big role in their passing game. And they have a very good kicker in Colin Rogers, who holds their program record for most field goals made in a season. And that's big right there, especially in close games. They have a kicker they can rely on. Of course, their offense is led by Jennings. Even losing Brashard Smith, they still have their roster has gotten better with players coming in from the portal. And you know they're going to have with Rhett Lashlee there, they're going to have a high-powered offense, especially against teams that rank outside the top 50 in points allowed per drive. So we all know that offense is going to be humming. That's not an issue. While the offense gets a lot of their notoriety, the defense had moments of excellence last year. But when you face big teams, like we saw in the playoff against Penn State and in the ACC title game a couple weeks before against Clemson, they had challenges. And this offseason, they addressed those issues on their D-line. They brought in players like Terry Webb to create more consistent pressure on the D-line. So they're getting that addressed. When you look at their recruiting, it is regarded as one of the finest in program history, showing they have their first 5-star recruit in offensive lineman Ramad Odoms. I can tell you something. When you get good results, you're going to get good players, especially from that area, and especially in that state of Texas. They're on their way up. They're going in the right direction. When I look at their schedule, 6 home games, 6 away games. They open August 30th with East Texas A&M. I mean, come on. But I think the more noticeable game will be September 6th, the next week against Baylor. So, you know, we're going to get a little better idea on that, on SMU at that point. And then they go to Missouri State, and then they got the Dallas-Fort Worth game with TCU this year in Fort Worth, before they start conference play off a bye week against a very good Syracuse team. And then when you look at that schedule after that, they have Stanford at home. They go to Clemson on the 18th, and they get Wake the 25th on the road. They got 2 road games back to back before we come in November 1st. And then they get Boston College. They go to New England late in the year, and it's going to be chilly up there. And then a bye week, and then November 22nd, they close their home schedule against Louisville. And then they have to go to the West Coast to close the regular season at Cal November 29th. So that's not going to be easy really down the stretch. Now, from a Canes perspective, look, we all know this SMU team is loaded. They're dangerous and they're explosive, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We know we're going to have our hands full with Retso. So our D needs to show up for 4 quarters and make key plays. And that's going to be a very tough place to play in Dallas on November 1. Now, when you look at them in summary, they have great hopes for this season, especially after a first year in the ACC. And they have a great quarterback in Jennings. And they have strengthened their key positions through recruiting and in the portal. They have challenges, as I mentioned in the schedule. But when you look at that talent and that momentum, the Mustangs will aim to have a strong finish. And you know they're going to have a big year. Again, Red's not going to let them drop off. That's for sure. Now, while it'll be difficult to replicate their success of last year, because their schedule's a little more challenging, like I mentioned, they go to Clemson October 18th, and we come in November 1st. They're still going to be a very strong competitor in the conference. Some will say 8.5 to 9.5 wins. I'm tempted to go 10 wins with SMU, but I really think not quite there yet. They'd have to steal one of those two, either Clemson on the road or else November 1st to do that. And I've always said, if there's a loss on the Canes schedule this year, I think it's going to be this game. I really do. Because that team is dangerous, they're explosive, and they're very good. My final prediction for SMU in 2025 is 9-3. That's the way I'm going in 25 with them. I'm tempted to go 10, but I'm going to go realistic 9-3. There'll be a little drop, but I still think they're still going to be very good. When we get to part 9 of the Canes opponent preview series, I will preview the Syracuse Orange.